homophobic to say you don't want to work with the person who's done gay scenes. It's not. You just don't want to do it. Now, should she have talked about it openly? That is up for debate. It's her personal opinion. She has the right to say it under the First Amendment. You know, she has the right to say it. Even if she is a Canadian-born citizen, if she's married to an American, I'm pretty sure she was on her way to becoming a naturalized citizen. So she does get the same, you know, rights and anything else, and have her opinion. Now, she's been prone to depression before. We've heard about this from other people who knew her. And it's possible that this particular attack on her is what prompted her to take her own life. Now, the medical examiner has not released the cause of it yet, so we don't fully know, but the police have suspected zero foul play, which either means she had like a congenital heart defect and it was an instant thing, or she took her own life. And it goes to show you that, unfortunately, words can have an impact on people. I like to you know, I like to say the whole sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me thing. It tends to be how I live most of my life. But it's not to say that there are times when I have said things people don't like. I get a big push, and sometimes things get under my skin. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It ultimately boils down to how you react. But when it comes to August here, when it comes to the idea, and I mentioned this in a previous video, there's nothing wrong with going and getting help. There's nothing wrong with seeking out help, getting treatment, getting counseling, getting therapy. When you find yourself in the entertainment industry, whether you are in front of a webcam talking about stories on the internet, or you are in front of a camera taking the D train to Bonetown, right? It doesn't matter what you do. If you find yourself at this particular center of attention in certain places, it can have a devastating impact on you when there's a pile-on effect. And that's not something we always pay attention to, right? It boils down to like death of 1,000 cuts, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. It is something I do try to be mindful of. Given my platform, given the size of my audience, I do try to be mindful of that. I'm not always the best. And that's hard to do when you want to voice your opinion, you want to respond to something. So I don't know if this is what led to her taking her own life. I don't know. But if it did, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that she went to that dark of a place based upon words that people sent to her through a social media platform, when it's just as easy as just turning it off, putting it in a drawer, and forgetting. Which I've done before. You know, I've turned off my Twitter, I've turned off Facebook, I've logged out for a couple days and just been happy about it. Because you have to. But not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's going to be at the same place in their life mentally that you are. I myself am going to see a counselor here in an hour. I have an appointment set up to start therapy. Why? Because I...
Okay, so I want to start this video by making it clear that I am not against sex work. I am not a swerf. Meaning that my feminism does not exclude sex workers. There was a controversy last week about the apparent suicide of adult film performer August Ames. Sadly, August Ames took her life after an incident online, and you know, there still hasn't been a causal connection between an incident of controversy on Twitter where she got into some pretty intense arguments about whether or not to work with male performers in the pornography industry that had recently worked in gay pornography. And you know, basically her complaint was that male sex workers who worked in gay pornography were a threat to female sex workers who work in exclusively heterosexual pornography. And obviously this argument is fallacious, right? Meaning that, you know, there have been outbreaks of HIV in the porn industry, and to date they have all been the product of straight male performers who contracted the disease working on sets with, doing heterosexual sex. So far, there's not been, let's say in the last 30 years, a documented case of a male performer carrying over HIV infections from the gay sex industry into the straight pornography industry. So it's just not substantiated. Her arguments aside, I think that some people who were in opposition to her position, some people who felt that she was being homophobic, went a little too far with their opposition into like territory of, fuck you, kill yourself, all that stuff. There was a component of people disagreeing with her that became cyber harassment or bullying. Now, where is my problem with the narrative that came up after her death? One of the prominent right-wing Twitterers who took over basically the anti-SJW hate machine on Twitter after Sargon left. Basically, he's now the tone setter for the right-wing online harassment dogpile set. Ian Miles Chong basically came out when August Ames died and hung her suicide around the neck of social justice warriors, because of course he did, and because everything bad is social justice. If she killed herself, it's obviously because social justice warriors didn't let her be intolerant and didn't accept her point of view, blah 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 blah. It's always our fault for not being tolerant of intolerance, or at least seemingly so. So it is perplexing to me to see someone like Ian Miles Chong, someone who literally, their Twitter account is just a platform for cyber harassment 24/7, for dogpiling, for someone who said in a tweet that he identifies as an attack helicopter. A guy who not participated, he was actually on the other side during Gamergate, I believe. I think he was a feminist at that time. But since then has become a staunch supporter of Gamergate and the virtues of Gamergate harassing feminists and SJWs. Fascinatingly, it's cognitive dissonance, right? I think this has to do with a couple of things. Number one, it has to do with the Gamergate type narrative about feminists are taking our toys away. This idea that Ian Miles Chong, who's I think he's an incel, an involuntary celibate, is outraged because SJWs bullied one of his porn stars because these misogynists really consume sex workers as totems and as property. They don't really assign them personhood. His outrage about the death of August Ames seemed to be quite infantile. It seemed to be, you took my Barbie and broke it. It didn't seem to be coming from a place of warmth and empathy and genuine concern about cyberbullying and online harassment, especially in context of who Ian Miles Chong is and in context of what the Gamergate movement means online. So I care about the death of August Ames. I think it's incredibly tragic. She had a long-standing problem with depression, and she had issues as a result of trauma growing up where she was sexually abused by her grandfather, and her family basically didn't believe her and completely ostracized her. So, I said this on Twitter, but I'll say it again. People using the death of August Ames to cry about SJW should probably take the time to think about the tragic circumstances that led up to a 2-day argument online being enough to put August Ames over the edge and put her in a position where she felt like she didn't want to live life anymore, where she needed to die to get away from these feelings of being ostracized and being isolated and humiliated. You know, there was another adult film performer who, can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she posted an important montage. And I want people to take this into account. When the anti-SJWs got their panties in a bunch over SJWs killing their porn star, they cited a couple of tweets from people, you know, and then tried to hang it around Zinnia Jones' neck. This idea of, where were you for gay sex workers when they're being harassed, etc. This other adult performer took the time to actually represent the extent to which cyberbullying and online harassment were not new for August Ames. They had existed within members of her own fan base who see pornography not as a means by which a woman can reclaim her sexuality in a creative and artistic way, which that's how I perceive pornography. It's empowering, you know, for most women, and a means by which a lot of people who are actually survivors of sexual abuse can actually reclaim, ownership of their sexuality and establish their own boundaries. There are a lot of people who consume pornography as the last bastion of otakus, the last bastion of misogyny, the last safe space for female objectification. And those, it's in my opinion, the biggest witch hunters screaming about SJWs killing August Ames didn't consider August Ames a person. They considered her a toy. She's another action figure another action figure. She's another female comic book character that's not being drawn sexy anymore. She's another video game avatar that doesn't have disproportionate breasts breaking her spine so that she can be arched and busty at the same time. You know what I mean? If you really care about what happened to August Ames, then the first step is to create an environment online where kill yourself is not a meme.